Alright, YouTube, it's time for another one. And this one, turn off my car, is gonna be titled, I think, "You're Not Needed Anymore. That's Why the Economy Sucks." And, yeah, that's pretty much all, but to go into more detail, one of the main reasons why everyone talks about, affordability is obviously an issue. It's not something to be ignored like Trump is ignoring because he's a fucking brain dead moron. But everyone talks about, affordability. Like leading up to the election last year, eggs was everyone was talking about stupid fucking eggs, but that was due to obviously bird flu causing the value of eggs to go up, and probably some other people hoarding them and supply and demand. But the main thing though is that, generally speaking, prices have gone up a fuck ton. And you'll have some dumbasses who will think getting a stimulus check 5 years ago for you got one for like what, $1,200, and then you got another one for like $700. And people are, if you still think getting like $2,000 or slightly less than $2,000 5 fucking years ago is why everything now costs like 40% more than what it did pre-COVID, you're fucking brain dead. I'm sick and tired of people thinking that those stimulus checks it caused that. It's like, no. The main issue is that you have Trump tariffs and threats of tariffs and all this other stupid fucking shit. He destroyed trade deals, which are more than, by the way, just tariffs. Anybody who says, oh, well, what if we get a tariff on this? That's a trade. That's not a trade deal. A trade deal is a comprehensive document that's probably hundreds of pages long, involving all sorts of shipping logistics and, whatever, taxes and all that other stuff, tariffs, whatever. It's not just tariff percentage and that's it. That's not how that works. So Trump's a fucking idiot. But the main thing is that it's not even just the tariffs, because these prices were going up before Trump 2.0, obviously, even during Biden and probably a little bit towards the end of Trump 1.0. The reason why is basically we're starting to reach, everyone always talks about late stage capitalism, and obviously that's really what it is. There are no major economic frontiers anymore to create this epic moment of kind of the Wild West. America has been basically a giant Wild West from its inception, right? Even in the days of colonial America, and obviously I don't know as much about those because I was not alive. But even up until like the Industrial Revolution, we had Wild Wests of all sorts of crops, all sorts of, the Civil War was a form of Wild West. It's just uncertainty, and uncertainty leads to immediate need of workers, right? I know that sounds weird, but it's true. The Wild West, the actual Wild West of the gold rush and all that other shit, created uncertainty because, who knew what was going to happen, and people wanted to go out and mine gold, and then they needed people to open up places to eat, and people to sell all the picks and shovels and all that other shit. AI is what they're trying to push as this Wild West form, because basically you have a bunch of nerds in Silicon Valley who are trying to recreate like 1995 to like 2000, and because that was a period of just insane, ridiculous growth. And they're really trying to push this AI shit on us. But the problem with this is the internet boom of the late 90s expanded the economy. It caused people to be able to purchase, maybe you opened up a shop, and it allowed you to open up a shop that made like the logistics of shipping just so much easier. Before, you'd have to buy, if you wanted to buy something that was not in your general area, you'd have to go to like the Sears catalog or some sort of a mail order service that, I remember back in the day, you would, even in the late 90s, I would still see this, but when I was a real young kid, you would see these buy 3 CDs, get 1 free, and you'd have to there'd be a bunch of check boxes, and you would check them off, and then you'd mail in the money, and they would mail you the CDs or whatever. I would think, I mean, they might be scams. I don't know. My parents, we never did that. So, but they were available. And so now with the internet, that caused a massive boom of commerce. It also caused just a massive boom of information in general. and all that created a Wild West. Now AI isn't really going to do that. All it's going to do is consolidate the economy more. Most inventions now that are these groundbreaking things are going to actually shrink the labor force, not increase it. Driverless cars will shrink the labor force. Copilot, ChatGPT. I mean, at my job, I'm not really a huge person at my company, but they try to push AI in everything. They're just like trying to do it just to say they're doing it, to sound like they're new age. It's all a facade. It's like if the current way is working fine, why do we need to leverage AI everywhere? It's like, how about you just keep doing what you're doing if it's working and people are like your work? But they're just trying to push AI because that there's like almost like this certain like they're trying to be able to go to various company meetings or interior within the company or exterior at like some of these conferences that I never get invited to because I don't have good hair, and they're trying to basically just say, well, we use AI here and here and here to sound superior to these other companies or other teams within the company, to sound like they're cutting edge. It's all a facade. It's all bullshit. And I think that people need to understand that it's all built on just trying to recreate a era of good feeling that was the late 90s, which unfortunately I was too young to really probably experience. Even if I was a little bit older, like a decade older, well, that's not a little bit, I guess, but if I was a decade older in the late 90s, that means I would have been born in like the early 80s, and that means I would have been maybe fresh out of high school, and then you at least be able to drive a car and stay out late at night and kind of experience that type of fun. But although you wouldn't really have a career probably quite yet. But anyway, um, I think that you're just not needed anymore in this current economy. Whatever skill set you have is just so there's 1,000 people in the general area. We're not even talking about like remote work people who slack off a lot of times and take extra long breaks. We're not talking about you're competing even against, like, technically you're competing against people that they might hire from another country, even, and you are competing against those people. We're talking about even in your local area. Um, if you live in a city that has, maybe you're part of the suburbs, or maybe you're part of inside the perimeter of a major city, um, almost most of these major cities, I mean, you're talking like what, a metro area of at least 500,000, and then of course in like the top 50 cities of this country, from New York's, L.A., Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Miami, what else? Maybe like Seattle, Atlanta, Nashville, Philly. I didn't. That's probably bigger than Atlanta. Well, maybe not Atlanta, but Nashville. But yeah, if you're talking one of these major cities, I mean, you have a metro population of 2 million, 5 million, 7 million in the case of New York or LA. You're competing, and most of those are over the age of 18 now because we live in an aging population. So you're not going to compete against kids. They're still getting an education, and college students are still getting an education. But there's a lot of 30 somethings you're competing against. There's a lot of 20 somethings you're competing against. There's a lot of 40 and 50 somethings. So, you're this notion that like you're important is just not true. And that's how that affects things is, well, if a company can just throw you off to the fucking side and say fuck you, and then most of these states are at will states, or at work, or work at will state. I don't remember what the term is, but these companies can basically just fire you without any sort of reason, with the exception of maybe like if a manager's called you like a racial slur or something, or maybe you were sexually harassed. Then you could, but like other than that, like if you're just like an ordinary dude, and by the way, I'm not talking about just like a white guy. It could be an ordinary. You're just black or Hispanic or Asian. If you're just like kind of just minding your own business, you do a decent job, and they just say, fuck it, we don't want you here no more because you make 70 grand a year, and we can cut costs because we don't need you anymore. Like, they don't need you. These companies do not need you. There's just no loyalty. There's no reason for you. And because of all that, the economy is toast. It's not, there's obviously there are things that Trump is doing that is even worse, to make things worse, I should say. Tariff, no tariff, tariff, no tariff. We're going to invade Greenland. Like, all of these things are horrible for global trade. If a business, if you work for a company and they do business with, Canada, well, they don't want to do business with you no more. So it's like, people are fucking stupid. They think the United States should be this like isolationist country, and it's like the most brain dead take ever. Like, we get tons and tons of resources from other countries. Like, people do not understand economics at all in this country. With that said, the general issue that I see, because these problems were trending in this direction before Trump 1.0, even this was happening even during Obama, and again, it's not Obama's fault. Because, first of all of these dumb fuck right-wingers who think the answer to everything is deregulate these corporations, which are already throwing you and kicking you to the curb. Free market capitalism doesn't fucking work, okay? There needs to be structures, and there needs to be legislation that is enforced to make sure that these ultra-wealthy people can't just rob you blind and dictate effectively your entire life. By if they choose to just want to fire you because they don't like you, or because they want to make $40,000 more dollars or 70,000, it's like eventually it's like they have complete control over your day-to-day experience in life, and that's just not going to be a healthy society and country. So yeah, the internet has just centralized so much of the workforce that it's really actually weakened workers' rights. Especially in the social media age where everybody has a fucking profile for everything. Things like LinkedIn. Oh my God, have you tried to apply for a job on LinkedIn? It's basically, you click on any job within your skill set. Like, I have a, tech-ish background, kind of STEM background. I mean, I'll click on any job in my fucking vicinity, and it's already has 500 people have applied, or maybe like 300 people have applied. I mean, and a lot of these people who are applying, they're applying to literally everything they see. So basically, like, there should be limits on these websites. Like, okay, you post a job a job offer, and it's like, oh, you've already applied to literally 30 jobs in the past, 2 months. Are you sure you're not a bot? And it's like, well, if you're unemployed, I get that, but it's like, you also have to keep in mind, if you're just looking and searching, and you're already employed and you're applying to everything out there, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, this is a disaster. This is also why the dating game sucks, especially for men, right? The modern dating strategy for men on these apps is swipe right on everything and just it's like, you're not even really building any initial, interest in the person, like by seeing a profile. You're just swiping right on everything. You're not building an interest in this company that you're applying for. You're just applying to everything. And this is just such a disaster. The internet has centralized way too much of our lives, and you're not needed in the economy anymore. Just my thoughts and I'm out.